wild thing. Coach Mangini back with us. Did anyone see that movie? I know it was more than 5 years ago, so you probably didn't. Time to run the no huddle. Let's start with Baker Mayfield and the Browns.
Jenna, we've seen Major League.
Okay, just making sure.
My God.
Coach, don't laugh. The fiery quarterback talked about his abundance of weapons yesterday, headed into year 4. I need you on my side, Eric Mangini. Baker said, quote, "We have a lot of great players, and this isn't taking anything away from them because I love these guys, but it doesn't matter who we have. If we don't have chemistry and we don't do our jobs, none of it matters." Right. Brandon, you trust Baker to take advantage of the Browns' playmakers this season?
You know what? I don't know, Jenna. I don't know. It's not just Baker. It's also the coach, the offensive coordinator, who's calling the plays. You got to make sure you get that guy involved. Number 80, Jarvis Juice Landry. You also got to make sure, let's see who he's throwing to right here. Who's that? Is that Odell? Odell, you got to get Odell involved. Guys, I know we're one of the best running games in all of football. Chubbs, those guys can go. But at the end of the day, you got some dogs on that side. Yeah, I'm going to act like P.J. Tucker right now. You got some dogs. And you got to feed those dogs. If you feed those dogs, it's going to change the entire landscape of your team. I can't stress this enough. All they need is some touches early. Just give them a jailbreak screen. That's when a wide receiver take 3 steps upfield, come back, and you get him a little touch. Just give him a bubble screen, coach. Get Odell a bubble screen. They don't want a lot, coach. Can you get me a slant? That's what I saw those guys say. Get them a slant. Let them take it 80 for you. If you do that, then it opens up everything. So when he talks about, you know, the chemistry and continuity, which you always like to say, you got to get those guys involved. Sometimes when you have a run game and you have a quarterback that you're trying to protect, you overcompensate, and then you start hurting those guys. And here's the deal: as a quarterback, and you know this, coach, you're the CEO. You have to know where everybody's at. You have to lead up, you have to lead down, you have to be able to meet people where they're at. And so when you look at Baker, you can't just say, guys, we're just going to go out there and run our plays. You got to be able to know how to speak to Odell when he's high, when he's low, when he's right there. You got to learn how to speak to Jarvis Juice Landry. You have to be able to communicate with your running backs. So he has to learn that dance of being able to lead. You can't go out there and say, you know what, guys, we're just going to run our offense and everybody's going to be successful. No. Yes, we have the team goals, but all those other guys have individual goals as well, and you have to be able to speak into that. And that's when you'll see Baker Mayfield take this team to a whole nother level. But you got to get them in early, coach, and you also have to be able to meet them where they're at.
Yeah, you know, last night I was watching the Kanye West listening party, and I saw him pivot on Jay-Z and them working together.
What's going on with Coach?
and so I'm going to pivot here on Baker Mayfield because that was earlier. I'm going from liking what Baker Mayfield did a year ago when I thought he was maturing, and I did like those things. I love what he's saying right now. I love this guy that's showing up, and that article had more than just the comments we took out. He talked about players on defense. He talked about the fact that they need to look at this as a new season. You don't get to start where you finish. There's an element of maturity here that's different. It's different, and it should be exciting to everybody in Cleveland, and it's exciting to me. I love when players develop, and I think, to your point, Brandon, he has a chance from a leadership standpoint because of this to be able to reach all those players that you talked about. And it's a very diverse locker room, and there's only one football, and a lot of people are going to want it. But his approach and his style this year is great.
Well, and America might be saying, if they did read the article, like, you don't start where you finish. Where have I heard that before? And you say, oh, from one Coach Eric Mangini. And then viewers of the show might be saying, where does Coach Eric Mangini spend the majority of his time? In Cleveland. And if they're wondering, you know, did Nick Wright set up a meeting between one of his favorite quarterbacks, one of his favorite coaches, so they could pick each other's brains? Maybe. We'll keep that off the air. We don't need to discuss it further. But here's the thing. Coach, I love where you're at. And Brandon, I'm going to wear you down on this one. because you snuck a little line in there you thought I wouldn't hear. And the line was, quote, when you have to protect your quarterback, end quote. You don't got to protect Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's star. Baker Mayfield, over the final 10 games of last year, had 16 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's a star, buddy. Heisman Trophy winner, #1 pick, won a playoff game in Cleveland. He won a playoff game in Cleveland. Do you know how many playoff games they had won since he was born? 0. And then Baker Mayfield comes to town, and they're awesome. Yeah, exactly. So this is going to be the year, Wilds, that Brandon says, you know what? Baker Mayfield, that's the guy. That's the guy. The guy that the Browns drafted him to be. And, yes, please, Brandon, go ahead. Go.
Wilds, listen, Wilds, this is all I need. If Baker goes out and perform, I'll do that. But I need, on the other end, I need Nick. If Josh Allen goes out there and he does his thing, then I need him to show love and give flowers to the guy in Buffalo as well.
I need Josh Allen to beat Mahomes first. I got to tell you, sorry, I need him to beat Mahomes.
Wilds, I know we're talking about Cleveland.
Mahomes.
Let's get back on track. But I just need that. All right.
Sorry, go ahead, Wilds.
Back to Mahomes.
I can't commit to that.
Go ahead,
Coach, I want to ask you what Brandon said. Because I'm not usually, if someone says something on the show, you dig in with them and you're like, well, let me ask you, but I know what Brandon is going to say. Brandon, for all of his sort of like emotional breadth and intellectual capacity that ranges from business to media to mental health, it's as wide as it can possibly be. He does have a flaw where he says, you know, guys, I've been thinking about the way to that this team can succeed. Bubble screens. Get the wide receiver in early. How about, I got an idea, guys. I studied it. What about getting the wide receivers in? Just get, you know, give them a pass that doesn't even gain any yardage. That'll work. Like that is a bias that you have that you know Brandon won. So the question is this: to you, Coach. Is that a fair take?
No, let Coach answer that. Yes.
Is that a fair take? Because it feels to me like growing up in the Patriots world, that Belichick over to Gronk, like, here's what you're going to do today, Gronk. Block all day. Run block. That's it. 0 catches. Here's what you're going to do, wide receiver, whoever. Decoy all game for 2 weeks. We'll call you when we need you. So that seems to be, I buy what Brandon says, but it seems to be in contrast to sort of like the Patriots' way of winning.
Yeah, you can't really compare the rest of the league to the way the Patriots do things. They do things in a very unique way that works for them. But Brandon's point is absolutely right. And it happens all the time. You hear about people scripting plays, the first 15 plays, and oftentimes you do that to get your playmakers involved. And sometimes if you have challenging personalities, you got to give them a touch early so that they get into the game and they're not frustrated on the sideline, and you'll script that stuff. And look, if it's a 1 or 2 yard completion or an incompletion, it's the cost of doing business in order to make sure you're maximizing that guy's potential.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's move on and talk to New Orleans Saints now. They got a quarterback competition brewing down there in New Orleans. Sean Payton wants to get it figured out sooner rather than later. Take a listen to this.
There is a sense of urgency at finding that player, and we feel like we've got 2 real good candidates, guys that I know have worked their tail off this offseason, and and they're a little different. That's the other challenge.
Well, Boston Globe's Ben Vallin had this report on the competition. From what I've heard from league sources, I'm not sure it's going to be truly open. Hill is such a unique dual threat that he's worth trying out as the starting quarterback to start the season. And if the experiment fails, Payton can fall back on Winston in a more traditional pocket-based offense and move Hill back to his Swiss Army knife role. So, Brandon, you buying Sean Payton might actually choose Taysom Hill as the Saints starter over Jameis Winston?
Nick, I don't like the Baker conversation, and he doesn't like the Taysom Hill conversation. We're going to have it, buddy.
No,
So, Jenna, look, yes, I'm buying this because I know Coach Sean Payton. Coach Sean Payton cut from an old school cloth, that Bill Parcells type of mindset, and those guys are loyal. And what we know is that Coach Payton loved Taysom Hill. Whether Nick loves it or not, or like it or not, Coach Payton does, okay? And Coach Payton made promises to him. He said, look, stay with me. Don't go take another deal. You may have a better deal on the table, but stay here. Drew's going to play one more year. He'll finish this thing out, and then I'm going to give you your opportunity. So, yes, I do think that he's going to give him an opportunity. But, Nick, you know I'm all in on Jameis Winston. Go back to 2019. If a few things went a little differently, we could have been talking about this dude as one of the best quarterbacks. 5,100 yards, 33 touchdowns. Jameis Winston, I'm all in on him, but I'm nervous. I'm nervous for Jameis, though, because of the loyalty from Peyton. Just a few things, Nick.
Yeah, the few things are all the same thing, and it's not a few, it's 30, and they're called interceptions. But of course you got to go with Jameis. Because, Coach, Brandon said something interesting there. He's like, Sean Payton's an old school coach. Well, is he old school meaning like he wants to run the wing T? Because if so, then Taysom Hill's your guy. But if you want to run an NFL offense, then you